Hi, America. I want to introduce you, if you have not known of Joe Robertson's story. We have a lot of new likes on this page. I appreciate everybody's support. The Robertson family appreciates the support. I want to start with a prayer for Joe Robertson and all the political prisoners. Heavenly Father, please lay a heavy hand of protection over anyone suffering or being neglected or abused in these federal prisons. We ask that you soften the hearts of the employees that work there. And we ask that you bring comfort. In Jesus' name, amen. So for Joe, this poster is now on a pretty big news station, Fox 31 here in Colorado. And we are re-engaging Senator Cory Gardner because Fox 31 reported that Cory Gardner was helping and looking into it. We need to clarify this. Cory Gardner's local office in Fort Collins was helping and gave up on us, passed the buck to senators in Montana. No one's contacted Carrie. No one's contacted me. We need to have Cory Gardner get involved directly. So we need one of the biggest call and email campaigns. We need to send them emails. It's an easy form online. And I'll update this video with all of that at the top. And we need to say, hey, Mr. Gardner, Fox 31, the news says that you're helping Joe Robertson. Do you understand how urgent it is that we get Joe to a hospital now? You guys, it's been since November 2nd that he possibly had a second stroke. Okay? And we don't know what's going on with Joe. I usually get a letter once a week. Carrie gets something. We have not gotten anything in about a week and a half. Almost 2 weeks, really. It's Thursdays. So we need to put pressure on Cory Gardner to do what elected officials are supposed to do. Elected officials. The people of Colorado, the people of America are not happy with Joe being neglected and abused. We need you involved directly now, Mr. Senator Cory Gardner. Get involved. So I need emails and phone calls to Cory Gardner. I have a DC phone number. I have two local office phone numbers and an easy form. I'll put the links at the top of this video. I'll put it in the comments. I need you guys to please share this everywhere. We know from the past when we've had things in Nevada or Oregon happen with abuse and neglect that call campaigns and email campaigns work. This prison here is not like Portland where I can just walk in there and demand something get done. They don't work like that here. So our best option is to have America speak for Joe. And right now our goal is to get Senator Cory Gardner directly involved because we have a feeling that maybe his local office didn't let him know what was going on. So we need him involved directly. So when you call and they say, we'll pass the message on, that's not good enough at this point. It's on the news here. We now have radio stations calling, other stations. Joe's story is going to go viral. I have this feeling and a conviction that all of our prayers and all of our hard teamwork is going to work, you guys. Joe's story, this sign that I showed you in the beginning of this video, I made it so that the word political prisoner is there and what's going on with that. And maybe people will start going, we have political prisoners in America? That should shock your conscience. So for Joe Robertson, we need to be his voice and we need to stand. And we need to do the call campaigns and the emails. I need 500 contacts today. So let me show this and I'll read it off to you guys. And then again, I'll update the links and everything. Okay, Cory Gardner is a senator here in Colorado. His local office in Fort Collins was helping. They gave up on us. We need Cory Gardner involved directly. The DC office phone number is 202-224-5941. The local Denver office is 303-391-5777. The Colorado Springs office is 719-632-6706. Fox 31 Denver did the story on Joe Robertson. If you scroll down through this page, and I'll put the link in the top of this video when I'm done too. We need to share that video to Cory Gardner. There's an easy form to fill out online. So calls and emails combined, you guys, should get us 500 contacts today and get Senator Cory Gardner involved directly. Joe stood for our country when he served. He's a 2-time war vet, you guys. He stood for us again when he didn't want to plead guilty on trumped-up charges from the EPA and the overreaching federal government to set a precedent that other landowners could be railroaded and abused. Joe is standing a 3rd time as a whistleblower of the abuse and neglect in this federal prison. So, America, we need to stand for Joe. Things happen for a reason. I've watched the coverage the news did about 20 times now. So many good things happened. They called us friends and family of Joe. They didn't call us crazy right-wing extremists. They didn't call us anti-government. They didn't use any of those terms that the media usually tries to demonize us with. They saw the truth, and they heard the whole entire phone call of Joe speaking with me, Carrie, and Cory Gardner's staff. That call made that reporter and that camera guy, okay, this is real. Something's going on. So the story Fox 31 did was an intro to Joe's story. They do want to do a follow-up. Other stations here have contacted us. Other alternative media has contacted us. So the ball is in our court to be loud and clear with integrity and honor that we need Joe Robertson to a hospital now. We're not going to take, I'll pass the message on. That's not good enough at this point. We've been working on this way too long. November 2nd, it was when Joe had his symptoms of a second stroke. It's been weeks. The man needs a hospital now. I would love, if you're around Denver, Colorado, if we could get enough people to even just go into any of Cory Gardner's local offices and say, hey, I saw Joe Robertson's story, because maybe face-to-face would be a little bit better. I know Ollie's going to Ken Buck's local office. Ken Buck's a congressman here. We did work with his local office. We filled out the privacy form, Carrie did, and we didn't hear anything after that. So, the elected officials of Colorado, we're not happy. We're very upset that a Navy veteran is being treated like this, and you guys need to step in and do your job and represent the people and protect Joe. Get him to a hospital. So, I see a question on here about Joe's public defender. Joe sent a letter to Mike Donahoe's office firing him. We have a volunteer legal team set up for Joe. The public defender should probably be contacted because we have recorded phone calls, faxes, and emails. We need Joe medical help, and they have done nothing, you guys. This giant that we're facing is a federal judge right out of retirement, a federal agency, the EPA, a federal public defender, federal prosecution, and now a federal prison, all paid by the same giant, the federal government. We want that government to be back within the confines of the Constitution. We don't want them to overreach and abuse 77-year-old Navy vets. There's so many pieces to Joe's story that in my heart, I have this conviction that if Joe's story went national, people would wake up and hear the term political prisoners, and I really want this to help all the political prisoners, you guys. All the guys in Nevada and all the other stories that we're starting to learn about. There's too many. It's not right. We need to step up our game, please, today, and I'm begging for everyone to please help Joe. I'm going to show this sign one more time, because the media that covered us yesterday, Fox 31, used this sign as the cover photo on the website, and they did a really good job reporting that story. So we have our again, the ball's in our court. We need to be loud, clear, bold, but show the integrity and honor. I'm asking that you guys do this for a 2-time war vet. I'm going to give the phone numbers one more time, and then I'll update the top of this video and I'll put it in the comments, everything that you guys need. So there's Senator Cory Gardner's DC office, his local office, and then Fox 31 Denver is the one who covered our story for Joe. So Mr. Cory Gardner, if you ever were to see any of my videos, sir, in my heart, I know if you knew what Joe needs right now, I really think as a human being, you would help this Navy vet and you would get him to a hospital. All right, guys, take care. God bless. Find your daily diligence. It doesn't matter how it ends. It matters how you stand.
Exclusive. Elderly disabled veteran rotting in solitary for digging ponds on his own property. Basin, Montana. When the Congress passed the Clean Water Act in 1948, it was an attempt by the legislature to control the pollution of which so many Americans were being made aware. But little did Congress know, at the time the bill became law, that it would create a dragnet which would net a catch of seemingly law-abiding citizens. There's no question Joe Robertson liked to thumb his nose to federal authorities over what he believed belonged to him, and what he thought was property of the federal government. At one time, Robertson, a disabled vet who suffers from PTSD, owned a gold mine called the Manhattan Lode. The Robertsons even moved up to their claim, in an effort to apparently carve out a homestead in the hills above Basin, Montana. There were several run-ins with authorities. Robertson had built several structures on federal land, fence, barn, etc., but when he decided to build 9 watering ponds on his property, that's when it all went south for the 77-year-old veteran. Agents from the EPA, the Forest Service, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the Jefferson County Undersheriff, and the Chief Deputy Attorney, all descended on Robertson's property to inspect what they considered to be a violation of the Clean Water Act. Robertson's property had already been sold to a real estate agent, a transaction the Robertsons dispute, and 3 of the ponds were also reportedly built on federal land as well as 6 on what used to be his own. Every town in the U.S. probably has a Joe Robertson. Someone who feels like their property is theirs to do with what they wish. But those folks often meet a cruel fate when the government, especially the federal government, gets involved. The Justice Department filed a criminal case against Robertson, and the senior citizen was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for damaging wetlands and waters belonging to the United States. The EPA celebrated their victory within a Justice Department announcement. Following a 4-day federal trial, a Montana jury found Joseph David Robertson, 77, guilty on 2 counts of unauthorized discharge of pollutants into waters of the United States and 1 count of injury or depredation of United States property. Part of the statement reads, "The Justice Department explained their case against Robertson. The United States introduced evidence and expert testimony from the Army Corps of Engineers and the EPA that the stream and wetlands had a significant nexus to traditional navigable waters, and therefore were waters of the United States." The keywords in the statement, wetlands and waters of the United States, are the ones federal prosecutors used to put Robertson away. And it's those same words with which Senator Rand Paul, R. Kentucky, takes umbrage. Paul wrote, in his book titled, Government Bullies, the Clean Water Act never even mentioned the term wetlands while passing through Congress for approval. The unelected bureaucracy, EPA, simply created the concept and defines it in distinct terminology dependent upon whatever scenario they are currently considering. Wetlands, quite literally, can mean whatever the EPA wants it to mean. The definition of wetlands has become so absurd and transparent that the Army Corps of Engineers developed the migratory bird theory. This theory states that, if your land is a stopping point for any migratory bird that has traveled between real navigable waters, then your land is now de facto connected to the interstate navigable streams. I'm not kidding. This theory is irrational and completely illogical. How did it ever become enforceable law? It happened because Congress has abdicated its duty in this area. Citizens often run afoul of these rules inadvertently due to the constant evolution of complex and unexplained regulations. In an attempt to remain neutral in Robertson's case, but also to draw a comparison, when the BP oil spill took place in the Gulf of Mexico, on April 20, 2010, a massive explosion on the offshore oil rig took the lives of 11 oil rig workers, and resulted in history's largest discharge of crude oil into the surrounding waters. The ruptured well resulted in the release of an estimated 4.9 billion barrels of crude oil into the Gulf, making it the largest marine oil spill in history. The same Justice Department which sent Robertson, arguably an elderly old codger who liked picking small, schoolyard types of fights with the federal government, had also investigated the BP oil spill. According to Reuters, a Justice Department probe into the spill led to criminal charges against just 4, mostly lower-level BP employees. The other rig supervisor, Robert Kaluza, was acquitted in February by a jury of the same pollution charge as Vidrines. Kaluza and Vidrine previously faced manslaughter charges, but those were dropped. Former BP Vice President David Rainey was acquitted by a jury last June of charges he lied to federal agents about how much oil was spilled. The fourth defendant, engineer Kurt Mix, was sentenced to 6 months of probation last November after pleading guilty to damaging a computer, a misdemeanor. The result: no one spent 1 day in prison. Not one person, involved with history's largest oil spill, spent 1 day behind bars as a convict. But let a squatting gold miner dig a few ponds on what he considered to be his own property, and admittedly a little sliver of federal land, and the government showed no mercy. And he isn't faring well in prison, reportedly. His wife told reporters he's been kept in solitary confinement, has suffered fainting spells, and is in overall poor health. After the conviction, an independent environmental consulting firm, Kegel Environmental, LLC, Nationwide Wetlands, Waters and Wildlife Consulting, located in Rigby, Idaho 83442, conducted a pro bono evaluation of the property the federal government claimed had led to harmful pollution of wetlands in violation of the Clean Water Act. Robertson's family gave the Free Thought Project a copy of this report. The firm concluded that the area where Robertson built his ponds could not be considered wetlands, nor did they find a single sliver of evidence that Robertson caused pollution. The EPA lied to throw an innocent man in prison. KE writes, according to the US's topo map, Mount Thompson Quadrangle, the unnamed tributary to Cataract Creek, is an intermittent headwater drainage channel. According to the NRCS soil survey, none of the ponds are underlain by hydric wetland soils, and according to the USF's NWE maps, none of the ponds are located within federally mapped wetlands. KE also concluded Robertson was within his rights to proceed with excavation without being compelled to acquire a permit, because the ponds were relatively small in nature and were being used to feed livestock and wild animals. KE observed that the pond construction, either within the narrow channel of the intermittent creek or adjacent wetland, did not appear to have required a permit since the work was accomplished via non-regulated excavation. They wrote, taking note of the small farm equipment used to construct the ponds in question. Image: http://pixel.watch/QUT7. Furthermore, the report added, we understand that the pond excavation was accomplished using a Case 780 track hoe with a 36-inch wide bucket and or a 580 case backhoe with a 24-inch wide bucket. Any dredged material dripping from the bucket back into the water or wetland is considered an incidental fallback and therefore not subject to any requirement for a Section 404 permit, TULAC rule. The firm found that Robertson did not need the federal permit required for the pond's construction because his equipment was not considered heavy equipment and the dredged drippings would be inconsequential. Ironically, the independent evaluation also found that Robertson may have actually done the federal government a favor by creating the ponds. They write, KE determined that the creation of ponds number 1, number 2, and number 3 which we understand are located on USF's lands, have actually enhanced the aquatic resources relative to the intermittent channel and adjacent wetlands. From the KE report, one could conclude Robertson was within his rights to construct the ponds. They weren't located in a wetland, and while he may have erred in building ponds on federal property, the environment is now better off as a result. Ultimately, the fate of Joe Robertson came down to an issue of property rights, states' rights, and the federal government. Did he have a right to construct ponds on his own land? Could the state of Montana have dealt with Robertson on their own without the heavy-handedness of the federal government's intrusion and ultimate prosecution of the aging veteran? And is it fair that the BP officials can get away with the largest case of pollution in the history of mankind, yet one cranky old mountain man can't get away with building ponds to feed his animals? These questions and more reveal the sad state of affairs in America, where corporations are given free passes, and the rights of the individual to live as he pleases get trampled. Read more at http://thefreethought project.com/veteran-sentence-18-months-building-ponds-property/number 5E6TXWYOS9CR2LQD.99.